Greetings and welcome to another video. It's Sunday, 22nd of August 2021, and as you can see, we're in Madeley Centre today. Yeah, and in this part of Madeley, we're also close to Ironbridge Gorge. Yep. And at the moment, we're at the entrance to the High Street to Madeley, which is just up that road. And behind me there is the Forester's Arms here in Madeley, which I've visited a few times before and was mentioned in a couple of other previous videos here in Madeley. So yeah. As I mentioned in my previous video today, places like Hadley and Montgomery have existed for centuries, and both those places were mentioned in the Domesday Book, which was commissioned by William the Conqueror after he ever so politely invaded England back in and took over the place back in 1066. And as you can imagine, over all that time there's been a lot of ghost stories going on, even long before then. And as you can imagine, for basically the same reasons, it's been the same story in Madeley. And so I'm here today in Madeley to share one such example of a ghost story that happens somewhere in Madeley. So yeah, where am I going to set up for this? This is like a good spot. Currently standing outside the People's Centre, Mount Zion Primitive Methodist Church, which is part of the Madeley Town Trail, commissioned by the Madeley Parish Council. So yeah. Just set up my camera. So yeah. The story I've got for you today, once again, comes from some ghostly tales of Shropshire by McCarthy. And as I said in my previous video today, this copy of this book was kindly given to me by my friend Ed Wyke, and it's a really good book. And as I mentioned before, it was published by Shropshire Libraries back in 1988. And there's some really fascinating ghost stories going on in this. And got a couple of ghost stories actually from Madeley. And the first story is set in Madeley churchyard. And this story goes like this. A man walking through the graveyard early one morning in December 1976 was surprised to see a figure down at the bottom of the slope. As it was only just after 7 o'clock and hardly light, he thought it was a strange time for someone to put flowers on a grave. He was a little concerned too, since 2 new graves had been dug there for funerals later that day, and as the figure seemed to be a small, frail, elderly lady, he hoped she could see where the holes were. He walked quickly down towards her as she moved about among the tombstones. He glanced down for a second as the path was slippery, and when he looked up, she had gone. He felt beyond a doubt that he'd seen a ghost. It has never been established who it could have been. If it had been a living person, in order to disappear so quickly, she would have had to climb over the hedge into Coalport Road. Hardly possible for an old lady. So that was a brief encounter tale of a suspected ghost seen not long after 7 a.m. one morning in 1976. I'll be honest, it could have been a real person, or it could have been a ghost. It's only a short account, a short telling, so not much information to go on with that one, so it could quite easily be an either or situation, but you never know. It's equally likely that it could have been some kind of apparition. Simple answer is I don't know. So we're now a little bit further up the road in Madeley, and we're now at St Mary's Catholic Church, which is part of the Diocese of Shrewsbury. And this seems like a nice, decent location to tell our second Madeley ghost story. To be honest here, it's a beautiful church that's in front of me, and I've said many times before that I really do appreciate and enjoy the architecture that goes into many church buildings, especially old traditional churches like this. They're gorgeous buildings. And I'm not a religious person at all. I describe myself as an atheist quite easily. But even then, despite that, as I said, I've always enjoyed the architecture of church buildings. They are very, very beautiful. You know, seriously, they're beautiful buildings. One's like the one behind me. So yeah. But like I said, it seems like an appropriate spot to stop a moment and tell today's second story. So again, this story comes from some ghostly tales of Shropshire by McCarthy, and I'll be putting the details and description of this book in the description box below this video. So yeah, let's get to the correct page. And this story, it comes under the title of Madeley Court. Another haunted house is the old courthouse at Madeley, which was occupied by the abbots of Wenlock until the dissolution. Ghosts have often been seen in and around the house, one of the most recent sightings being 1977. A family who have close connections with the area were on holiday from London and walked around the court, as they always did on their visits. While the father and son walked up the lane away from the buildings, the mother turned and saw an old woman standing by the gate on the farmyard side. She was wearing a long skirt, a sacking apron, and a hood over her head. The figure was wearing a long skirt. The figure stayed in the gateway for a few seconds, then disappeared. The mother also saw something else on another visit to the court when she was alone. She saw a crowd of people in the hollow between the old barn and the gatehouse. The people looked like gypsies or peasants. She also saw some old cottages in the lane. What surprised her most about this incident was that the people and cottages were not there when she first walked down the lane earlier on that day. A 17-year-old boy had an unpleasant experience late one night on his way home to Brookside. He walked along the Silken Way and was on the bend just before the old windmill. He since sensed there was something in the undergrowth either side of him, and he went cold all over. Then, to his horror, he saw two huge shapes lurking on either side of him. Although he could not see them clearly, he sensed they were neither men or animals, but a mixture of both. They followed him until he reached the windmill, when he began to run, and fortunately he lost them. A woman witnessed something near the courthouse approximately 40 years ago. One Sunday afternoon, early in the summer, she was walking through the woods which overlook the tennis courts. A cricket match was in progress in one of the fields. There was quite a lot of noise in the air, dogs barking, birds singing, cars going past, children playing, and the sound of a cricket game. Suddenly, everything went dead quiet. For a moment, she thought she had gone deaf. She stopped walking and just stood there, bewildered. She looked ahead of her, and only a few feet away was a huge hole where a ventilating shaft had recently fallen in. The moment she became aware of the hole, the noises returned. She realized something was trying to warn her of the danger. If she had not stopped at that moment, she may have fallen to her death. So yeah. That was a couple of really interesting stories there, based around Madeley Court, the Silken Way. Nice. There's a few other ghost stories mentioned in this book. In Jackfield, in Wellington, in Dawley, and even Ironbridge. But what each of those stories will have to be another video on another day. But yeah, I'll be honest, I do enjoy a good ghost story from time to time, and it's good to come and visit some of the locations here in Telford that these stories happened in. So on that note, I'm gonna finish this video here. And again, thank you everyone for watching both my videos today. I do appreciate it. If you're ever in a position to visit Madeley or Montgomery, then keep an eye out for more of the supernatural and paranormal places. Because you never know, they might be the location of some old ghost story in the area. And if you've got ghost stories of your own, please share those stories in the comment section below. It's going to be really interesting to hear what stories you've got going on. But yeah, on that note, thank you everyone for watching again. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you all soon in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.